why are crypto prices still rising?
According to it, for example, in one instance in 2019, Binance received information regarding Hamas transactions. And a Binance employee allegedly dismissed the risk involved in that information, saying that you can barely buy an AK-47 with $600, the amount that was referenced in that conversation.
I mean, is the crypto world just an inherently dodgy one?
In a chat message that certain customers, including some from Russia, were, and I quote, here for crime. A colleague allegedly, again, replied by saying, "We see the bad, but we close two eyes."
Yeah, you sound a little skeptical. Hello and you're welcome to the Big Tech Show with me, Adrian Weckler, in association with Square. Square helps you look after your business needs from payments to menu management and online ordering. Visit square.com for more. Now, the crypto world has been rocked by a succession of scandals in recent months and weeks. We had the trial of FTX's Sam Bankman-Fried. We've had the arrest of Terraform Labs' Kwon last week, and now legal action being taken against Binance. So what's going on? I mean, is the crypto world just an inherently dodgy one? And if so, why are crypto prices still rising again? Well, I'm joined to talk about this by Scott Cipollina, who's the digital assets correspondent with the Financial Times. Scott, we might start with Terraform Labs and Kwon. Who is Kwon and why is he in the news?
Sure. Thanks for having me, Adrian. So Kwon is, long story short, he is the co-founder and chief executive of Terraform Labs, which is, in essence, the company that really sort of kick-started the crypto collapse of 22, which is sort of infamous in most crypto circles now. He has been, the recent update is he's been charged in the US with fraud, and he was arrested a few days ago in Montenegro. And the collapse of what's called Terra USD coin, which is essentially a stable coin that was designed by Kwon and the company Terraform Labs. It collapsed, broke its peg to the dollar. It's meant to track the price of $1. And in May last year, that peg broke, and it unleashed this unprecedented crash in crypto that claimed, frankly, many prominent companies, which subsequently in the following months collapsed into bankruptcy.
And has the crypto community recovered from that crash?
Well, in terms of if we can use coin prices as a metric for recovery, certainly not. Prior to the crash, say late 2021 and into 2022, the early months, crypto was sort of, in the middle of this massive bull run. There was Super Bowl ads for the biggest crypto companies in the world, ironically, including FTX at the time. And prices are nowhere near those heights. So I think it's safe to say that no, it hasn't.
What was Terra USD and Luna worth at its height?
So, well, Terra USD was worth $1. It was meant to be. It was tracking the price of the US dollar. But stable coins are particularly important within the crypto ecosystem, without getting into the nuts and bolts too much. But it means that crypto traders have essentially a safe haven to jump in and out of crypto bets. And if those pegs break, like it did with Terra USD, then that's obviously a big problem. It was, in a sense, controlled or let's say really relied on the Luna crypto token, which was sort of a sister cryptocurrency. And when that collapsed, I mean, that represented about a $40 billion collapse at the time. So this was truly the sort of ground zero moment, if you will, for the collapse of 22, definitely.
And why exactly was Kwon arrested?
Well, so Kwon has, South Korean authorities said that they were looking for Kwon for quite some time now. The collapse of Terra USD and the Luna coins, they've affected hundreds of thousands of investors, many of whom were drawn into the scheme that promised a yield of up to, say, 20%. In essence, that there is let's say, a sea of big crypto names that have raised the ire of law enforcement, to say the least. And Kwon is right up there with the likes of SBF and others.
And would these investors be savvy individuals and organizations, or might they be just regular people who could be easily taken in?
Many of them are regular people that can be easily taken in. So, the sort of traditional language or the division is institutional investors and retail investors. And many retail investors, again, that perhaps haven't got, established, market education or any sort of, prep for high risk investments, they certainly get drawn into a lot of crypto bets, that's for sure.
So that wasn't the only big crypto scandal. in recent weeks. As I mentioned, Binance has been accused of breaking US financial laws. What's the background to this?
Yeah, so the CFTC, which is one of America's biggest regulators, they have filed a lawsuit against Binance. They have alleged that the exchange has illegally accessed U.S. customers. Binance has said that it doesn't do that. And well, according to the complaint, is certainly worth a read. According to it, for example, in one instance in 2019, Binance received information regarding Hamas transactions. And a Binance employee allegedly dismissed the risk involved in that information, saying that you can barely buy an AK-47 with $600, the amount that was referenced in that conversation. A year later, in 2020, according to the CFTC complaint, a Binance executive said in a chat message that certain customers, including some from Russia, were, and I quote, "here for crime." A colleague allegedly again replied by saying, "We see the bad, but we close two eyes." So that CFTC complaint is certainly a really serious issue for Binance, and it's certainly worth a read.
I mean, it's obviously something that's ongoing, but it sounds like they were saying the quiet bit out loud.
Well, yeah, it's like I said. I mean, I think it's a significant issue if the CFTC, again, one of the biggest regulators in the states, have alleged that Binance, which has said it doesn't access U.S. customers, are in fact accessing U.S. customers. That is certainly a significant problem.
Just to take it back a step, what is Binance for those who mightn't know?
Sure. So Binance is a crypto exchange. People can go on there to buy and sell crypto tokens like Bitcoin and Ethereum. It is by far the biggest exchange in the world. It controls about 60% of the crypto trading market. So it's certainly no small fish.
And is this part of a pattern? Because we've had Sam Bankman-Fried, obviously, with FTX. That was a huge media story a couple of months ago. What's going on here? Is this really a proof that regulation is starting to catch up with these guys? Or is it just the weight and the gravity of things that are inherently unstable starting to bear here?
I think it's certainly the case that regulators have started to really turn the screws on crypto. I think, the events of last year, not least the collapse of FTX, but going further back to say, before the summer when Terraform Labs was all over the news, it certainly has renewed scrutiny on this industry. And I think, the CFTC complaint is one example of many where regulators are indeed sort of renewing their training their crosshairs, let's say, on the crypto industry.
Yeah, because every few months, every few weeks, we hear a major regulator or a major central bank issue yet another warning about crypto and its inherent weaknesses and how it can potentially collapse at any time and how any one component of it can collapse at any one time. I mean, and they are going to say again that this is further proof that crypto is just a chaotic world. I mean, is that a legitimate criticism?
Well, it certainly does seem to be quite a chaotic world in terms of news coverage. I mean, there's obviously quite a lot of scandals that have broken in just recent weeks and months, as you said earlier. I think it's also, part and parcel of a further discussion that's going on among regulatory circles, but also just generally in the public about what crypto is really used for. That many of the advocates of this industry will say a couple of things: that it is a store of value. I think the collapse in crypto prices demonstrates quite clearly that that's not the case, at least not at the moment. And they would also say perhaps that it is a rival to hard currencies as a means of exchange. And if you just look at widespread crypto adoption or very much the lack thereof, I don't think people have been convinced by that claim either.
To be fair to those, I suppose, who might say that it is a store of value, I'm sure if one of them was sitting in studio today, they would say that although, if you take the highest pegged one, Bitcoin has come down from, I don't know, $45,000 at its peak early last year, collapsed to about 15, 16,000. And now it's back up to about 28, 29,000 again. So they might argue that despite all of the chaos, that's kind of priced in, and that this is a proof that crypto is here to stay for the long term.
It's certainly an argument that I think, as you mentioned, some of the advocates of that point of view will put across. In my view, it's certainly a hard sell to the hundreds of thousands, if not more, folks that have lost big on crypto over the last 12 to 18 months.
Yeah, you sound a little skeptical.
Oh, I mean, it depends on how far out you look at the graph, is what I think. The store value folks might say, but again, in real life, I think it's hard to imagine that folks would find that relevant to their own financial lives to zoom out to the price of Bitcoin, say 5, 10 years ago compared to today.
Yeah, yeah. I guess the this just compounds the wisdom that you just shouldn't be investing in this if you don't understand what it is, right?
I mean, generally, I think as a rule of thumb, folks should make sure that they understand what they're investing in.
Mm.
Definitely, and I think in many instances over the last couple of years, there's been a lot of excitement over crypto.
Hmm.
In and of itself, of course, is not a bad thing, but perhaps there have been some folks that have jumped in without perhaps being fully aware of the risks.
Do you think people understood what they were investing in when they took the word of Lindsay Lohan and Jake Paul for some of the stuff that they were boosting on their social channels?
Well, this is a really interesting, subject within the crypto world as well. You mentioned a bunch of celebrities have been hit by the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission in the States, for endorsing cryptocurrencies without revealing that they were also being paid to do so. But again, it sort of speaks to this wider crypto issue that I suppose is right at the forefront of this digital social media age that we live in. A lot of folks that aren't, let's say, crypto savvy or even financially savvy, investment savvy, will be seeing a lot of information about why they should be getting into crypto, why they shouldn't miss out, why they should buy now instead of later. And obviously that presents risks to folks that can't afford losses or perhaps that don't quite know what the risks are.
Mm. I think that at least some of these celebrities have settled with the US Securities Exchange Commission, the SEC. So, but I suspect this is not the last time that we're going to see celebrities endorsing crypto schemes.
Yeah, it certainly isn't the first time. Kim Kardashian also agreed to pay, I think it was a touch over $1 million to settle charges with the SEC, again for promoting a crypto token without revealing that she was paid to do so. That happened, I think, in October of last year. So again, this is, I would say, an ongoing concern for regulators and perhaps something that we'll see again in the future.
As someone who looks at this sector and covers it, and people can read your work in the Financial Times. What do you think is going to happen over the next couple of years? I mean, we've already touched on the debate over whether crypto is legitimately a store of value for the long term, and you've made the point that it depends how long you look at the graph. Do you see in the future more of these kind of scandals? Do you see more turbulence? Do you see a flattening out? Do you see a regularization in the crypto world in the coming years?
Um, it's it's very hard to say what's going on in the future. I think it's what is safe to say is that regulators, as I mentioned before, are certainly sort of training their crosshairs on this industry. Perhaps more so now. I would say certainly more so now than they ever have done before.
Mm.
So I think that will be a continuing conversation, let's say, within the industry and its relationship with regulators going forward. In terms of price movements, um, it's such a chaotic market that doesn't tend to have the rules that traditional markets do. So I've always said, perhaps a little bit facetiously, that if anybody tells you what they know is, if anyone tells you that they know what's going to happen in crypto markets, say in the next week or month or year, then they're either, well, they frankly just don't know. I think because it's again, it's quite an unpredictable market, and we've seen for the course of crypto's entire existence that it's particularly volatile, and I don't think that will change.
Scott Cipollina, digital assets correspondent with the Financial Times, thank you very much for joining us today and explaining what is going on in the crypto world. And that's all we have time for this week. My thanks go to Tabitha Monaghan, who produced, to Gavin Hennessy on sound, and to Conan Doherty on video. This is Adrian Weckler. You've been listening to The Big Tech Show, and we'll talk to you the same time next week. Bye-bye.